How many questions you got left, man?
We're halfway through.
Halfway?
We wasn't halfway.
You gotta be more than halfway unless y'all buying us dinner tonight. Good Lord. This ain't the documentary. Good Lord, man.
My name is Delisa Crosby.
I'm her husband, Ron Crosby, and our home is in Fayetteville, North Carolina. When you're out there looking on the market, you're going to see so many things that you like, but there's always one thing you really would prefer not having, and then something that you really want that's not there. So I think the only way that you can kind of get everything that you want and stay away from them things that you don't want is you got to do it yourself. You know, we had heard a lot of great things about Southeastern, but I think our primary goal was we wanted to find someone that was big enough to do the project, but small enough to care. This was our second custom home being built. And in the past, when you get a contractor, sometimes you only see that contractor twice. And that's at the beginning, you know, when they're agreeing to do the project, and at the end, when you're closing. And with Southeastern, it wasn't that way at all. Ralph was with us from day one. And even when we started the project, I remember he and his wife, you remember? He and his wife came. We had prayer on the land, you know, before anything was done. So it just gives you some insight about the type of people you're dealing with when you decide to work with Southeastern. We realized we wanted to work with Southeastern when we sat down with Ralph, and we realized that we could have a conversation opposed to someone just dictating, this is what you've got to do, or this is how it's going to be. We had a conversation. And as a lawyer, you know, I think one of the things I always believe is that everything can be discussed. You know, there's no contract that you can't modify. And Ralph was willing to do that. You know, he had his own set of rules going in, the things that he wants to maintain when he's working with someone. And we had our own ideas about what we wanted to do with this contractor. So when we sat down and he was willing to hear what our concerns were, and we could figure out on a way to kind of manage what he wanted versus what we wanted and needed to, we were very satisfied with making him the contractor.
I think Southeastern stood out for us because, again, they were more hands-on. We had multiple meetings with them, and they just, to me, they were more hands-on with the project and had a more personable touch. We
wanted someone that no matter when we called them, they could give you detailed information about the progress of the project, what was going on, what we could expect to happen in the next few days, without saying, well, wait a minute, let me get in touch with my foreman and I'm going to get him or her to give you a call back. You don't get that at all with Southeastern. You know, Ralph can tell you everything about every project that he has going on, and that was important to us.
The issue that Southeastern solved for us was the design of the house. Design was already made up, and they made it more realistic. There were some things on the design that was not realistic for this lot, and they were able to redesign and make it more suitable for what we needed.
Yeah, we had selected an architect to draw up the plans, but what we learned is that sometimes when the architect draws up the plans, the builder says that's just not going to work. And so now you're at a crossroads because you fell in love with the plans, but then you start running into difficulty because you can't get somebody to build what you want. And so instead of just saying, no, that can't be done, Southeastern type of company that says, okay, well, what can we do? How can we get you, if we can't do exactly what you envisioned, how can we get you close? And so they were really good about that. One of our major concerns was being able to get what we wanted and still have somewhat of a budget. Because, you know, sometimes people will just, you know, it's not their money. And so they'll just say, oh yeah, you need this and this and this and this. And they don't keep in mind the bottom line, which is, hey, there's a limited amount of money that you can devote to anything that you want to do. And so I think with the guys over there at Southeastern, they were able to keep it practical, you know, as far as being mindful that, you know, money is important. And so you need to kind of stay on track and try to stay within some type of reasonable framework and still get your project completed. If I had to talk about the design process, as far as incorporating our vision into the ultimate design, we already had our plans, but those plans are the architect's dream. And what Southeastern was able to do is to take that dream that the architect was able to put on paper from what we expressed to him, what we wanted, and they were able to make that dream a reality. Take those and with some modifications. And the modifications were things that an architect would say, hey, this is great. But then the contractor would look at it and say, yeah, but that doesn't meet code. That looks real nice, but that doesn't meet code. But this is what you can do, and it'll get you pretty close to what you wanted. And it's not going to take away from what your dream was, And so I think they did a wonderful job of that.
I think they actually made the design a little more desirable. To me, the original plan, the front of the house looked different to me, but I remember they made it look much more desirable to me. Absolutely. They made it much nicer.
And I'm glad you said that, because I'm thinking, particularly there were some things that the design showed one thing, and when they actually went to do it in the field, pursuant to the design, it just didn't work. And the great thing about Southeastern, they were honest in those types of things. With our design, the plans called for our front steps to be a certain way, a certain size. We had the dimensions. And when the brick masons came, they followed the plan. But the end result was something that we didn't like. And we talked to Ralph about it, and he just said, oh yeah, that's terrible. That just does not work, And so it wasn't a situation where he said, listen, we built it according to your plan, and, you're kind of stuck with it. He was kind of, he was honest and fair. He said, no, I wouldn't want that either. But let's figure out what we can do. And so, you just like dealing with people like that, because we're home buyers. We're not contractors. We're not architects. So we don't know what it's going to look like. And you have to rely on the contractor to bring what you envision and what your design was. They have to make it a reality. They have to, take it from just being on a piece of paper to being something real. And sometimes in that transition, during that process, it's not what you thought it was going to be. And you don't want to feel like, I'm out here by myself now. The contractor saying, hey, you asked for it, you got it, I delivered it, you're stuck with it. When you're dealing with somebody like Ralph with Southeastern, he's going to treat you fairly. And he's going to, and if it's not good, he's going to tell you, no, I know that's not what you thought. It's not what I thought it would be either. So we're going to fix it. So we always felt like he was in the process with us. He cared just as much about the project as we did. I would say the biggest surprise, and it's a pleasant surprise, is that we're still talking to Southeastern to this day. If we have an issue, we can call them, and Ralph or Kennedy, somebody in that office is going to call us back. And that's a pleasant surprise. Oftentimes when you do business with people, once that warranty period is over, the relationship is over. And so one thing that Ralph always said is that he is trying to build and maintain relationships with people. To our pleasant surprise, he has done that. He's still with us whenever we have an issue. So Southeastern, proved themselves to be a great partner and went beyond probably what most people would do, particularly most contractors. Is there was a period where we were meeting with the gentleman who was doing our flooring, doing our cabinets. It was a big piece of the project. And his final estimate was well above what was allotted for that space. Truthfully, the subcontractor kind of folded his arms, kind of like, well, what you going to do? And I looked at Ralph, and Ralph looked at me, And he said, Ron, I'll meet you halfway. You pay half and we'll pay half. And I said, well, easy. We can do that. And the subcontractor was kind of surprised because he didn't expect anybody to do something like that. Typically what will happen is the contractor, I imagine, would say, well, this is what was allotted for that portion of the project. And so anything above that, you're going to be responsible for. But he didn't do that, And so it was important to us because you think about, and when you're dealing with a subcontractor, and you're making those selections, it takes a long time to make those selections. And so once you've made selections that everybody's pleased with and it works for the space that you have allotted, you don't want to start over because it's too far of a budget. And so we have to give credit where credit is due. I don't think very many contractors would have done that without a lot of haggling, without a lot of arguing. He just said, look, let's get it done. And so I think that's what you get when you're dealing with somebody like Ralph, somebody who really wants you to be pleased with the process and the project once it's completed.
The final product exceeded our expectation of what we thought it was going to look like. It was amazing when we came in, and it was breathtaking. The first day that we moved in, it was more like a relief for me because you have all this anticipation waiting up until that time, and then you're finally in your house. So it was a relief for me.
If you ask whether we've had issues in the house, the answer is yes. I mean, this is a man-made structure. So anytime you're dealing with something like that, you're going to have problems. But that doesn't bother me. What would bother me is when you have a problem and you can't get a response. And that's what I would tell anybody when it comes to Southeastern. If you want to hire a contractor and you want to guarantee that everything is going to be perfect and you're never going to have a problem, I just don't have that recommendation for you. However, what I can say is that the same way you deal with Southeastern at the very beginning when they're trying to convince you that they're the contractor that you want to partner with in building your home, Ralph is going to be just that accessible down the road when a problem comes up, because unfortunately, projects are going to arise. It's going to happen. But every time that we've contacted Southeastern, they have been great partners to this day. And we're going into, it'll soon be 4 years. 4 years.
4 years, yes.
Yeah, it'll soon be 4 years.
It's always a quick response.
Yeah, always a quick response, always pleasant. So that's what I would say. If you want that type of service, if you want that after the sale, service after the sale, if you want to maintain a good relationship, they're the ones to partner with. If I had to give some advice to someone who was considering doing a custom build, I would definitely say pay attention to how much money you want to devote to the project, because whatever the estimates are, this is something that's personal, and when you're doing it, you're thinking all along the way that this is the last time I'm going to do this. I'm not doing this again. So therefore, the tendency is to go beyond what you originally budgeted for any particular area. For instance, if you're talking about your lighting, you may have a certain amount set aside for your lighting. However, once you get to that place and you're ordering lights, of course, the prices are going up. And the lights that you and your spouse can agree on are always going to be more expensive than what you envisioned at the start of the project. So I would say to anyone, expect those things to happen, budget for them, and just understand it's nobody's fault. The reality is what you tend to fall in love with always tends to cost a little more than what you would have hoped. And because this is your custom build, you're going to want to go ahead and get that. We met with a lot of contractors, but I think ultimately we chose Southeastern because Ralph seemed to be as advertised. He didn't, everything that he presented, it seemed to hold true. He was holding some, his values, communication. If we agreed to meet at a certain time, he was there. And what I also liked about him is he wanted to be clear, 1,000% clear about every aspect of what we were trying to do. There was no, hey, we'll figure it out as we go type of situation when you're dealing with Southeastern. Now, some people don't like that. If you're the type of person that doesn't want to get into detail, then he's probably not the contractor for you, because he is going to insist upon making sure that you know what they expect from him and he knows what they expect from you as far as what you would like to see happen in that particular project. And so I think one of the strongest points for us is that he was paying attention to detail. He presented as advertised, and we felt that he genuinely cared. And that was clear, if you remember, during our build, a hurricane happened. And we were at a point where we had walls up, but we were fearful that it was going to, it wouldn't sustain the winds that were coming. And so right before the winds came, Ralph was out here with some of his guys putting up supports to make sure that the walls withstood these high winds that were coming. And the thing that I appreciated about it, and it let us know that we had made the right choice, is he certainly didn't have to do that. There was a cost associated with it because he had to pay those guys to come out there. He had to pay for the wood that they were using to basically provide extra support, but he was doing it because he cared about the project. I think it would have been very easy to just hope and pray that nothing happened. And if it did, you pass that expense on to either insurance or to the buyer, because this was a custom build, but he didn't do that. He made, and I appreciated that, and I think that was just one of the examples that we were able to see. But I know that type of dedication, that type of commitment, that's an everyday thing with Southeastern. So I would just say, they're the type of people that you want to do business with.
Southeastern General Contracting. Your vision, our expertise. Building excellence together.